Welcome to Flow of Miracles Reflective Moments. And today I invite you to reflect with me on work life balance. And if you haven't listened to the reflective moment balance, I highly recommend that you do that first because those questions will definitely help you if you want to balance your work life. But now let's talk more in depth about work life balance. So, the first thing to understand is that there has been a lot of talk about work life balance and how important it is. And there are times in our lives where it's quite easy to balance the rest of our lives and our work. And there are times in our lives where this is increasingly more difficult. For example, when we're ill, when we are needed in our families because of caring for others, or maybe having a new baby, or even when things at our job aren't going the way they should be going. So, the first reflection question is it the job? And this is something I hardly ever see when people talk about work life balance. It always has all these great ideas of what you should be doing, but sometimes the job is just a bad fit. Maybe your company is asking too much for you, and a lot of people got fired, and suddenly you have to do double or triple the work. Maybe your boss is not being understanding enough or is not being reasonable about the amounts of work that you can do. Maybe the job is a bad fit because it's too difficult, or because it's too far away, or because it's draining. So it's very important when you look at your work life balance and you notice that it's not balanced in the way it should be, to ask yourself, is it the job? Would you actually have an easier time if you were working somewhere else, if you were doing different work, if your boss would be nicer, or if your colleagues would not be doing this kind of bad behaviors? So it's very, very important to understand that sometimes the job is the problem. So when you reflect on the jobs you had in the past and seeing what makes a job a good fit for you, take a closer look on if this job still works for you. Due to the fact that most human beings are risk averse, we tend to stay in jobs that aren't right for us because actually trying to go and look for a different job is a lot of work. A lot of people dislike putting themselves out there again, actually going to job interviews, writing motivation letters, etc., etc. And while that is totally normal and human, it also means that we're likelier to stay stuck in a job that isn't a good fit. And because of that, it drains us, it drains our energy, and it means that keeping a work life balance actually positive is impossible. So, after we looked at if it's the job, the second question to reflect on is it me? I have met a lot of people that you notice that they're workaholics, that they have difficulty not micromanaging, that they feel very responsible, that they can't really cut down on the work they're doing. And because of that, their work life balance is hell. They always feel like they aren't doing enough. They always feel like they're out of time. They always feel like they need to be at the job until 8 or 9 p.m., even though the job is supposed to be 9 to 5. And then, of course, when we're home late, our responsibilities there didn't stop. Usually it becomes a cycle of eating the wrong things, not sleeping enough, not being able to keep your household running, not being able to have a social life or have hobbies, and just pouring all that energy in the job. That is, of course, no way to maintain a healthy balance. Sometimes this has to do with kind of the idea that we need to work hard, we need to deserve things, going back to our core family life and hearing our parents say, work hard. And actually internalizing that in a way that is incredibly unhealthy. So if it's us, if we are the problem, if our underlying behavior, if our underlying thought patterns, if our underlying emotions are causing this kind of upset of the balance, we need to do the work. And a lot of times people especially do the mental work, but that is not enough. If you had a burnout before, or if you're nearing a burnout, you know that knowing you're doing the wrong thing is not enough to change it. If underlying there's all these kind of emotions and thought patterns, you will continue to overwork yourself. So it's very important to do the underlying work. And of course, there's some true unity videos I did about workaholism that can really help you out there. But I highly recommend that if it's you, you actually do the work necessary so you can actually maintain a healthy work life balance. Because if you don't do the work, change jobs, but that's not a solution because you're taking yourself, your thought patterns, and your behavior with you, and you will continue to overwork yourself just in a different job. And that also means that if you're reducing your hours on paper, you're just being paid less for doing the same overwork because you will not stop doing it. So it's very important to understand if it's you, if you're the one upsetting your work life balance, you need to do the underlying work or it will not improve. And of course, I hope that everybody does the work. So that's the third and final reflective problem, which is how do I prepare for balancing problems? In a perfect world, everybody would be happy that you're taking the healthier approach to work. In the not so perfect world where we live in, expect to have balancing problems. At work, you will have some pushback because you're no longer answering emails at 2 a.m. You might not be able to go back to work on your day off. You will actually have healthy boundaries, which means that other people feel that you're more unreliable and that you're not as easily accessible as they would like. So make sure that you actually stand strong in the face of this opposition and understand that people just need to be taught again that your boundaries have shifted, that you're choosing a healthy way. And if it's not possible to do that at your current job, it's usually the better idea to actually move on to a job where expectations and boundaries are healthy. It's also true that while it would be perfect if the people around us would be happier, that we have more energy and more time available for them, often there is also pushback in adjustment. I once counseled somebody who was a total workaholic. He had his own company and he was finally scaling back, no longer going by on Saturdays. And one of the things that happened was that he was very disappointed that nobody had time for him on a Saturday. And I told him that he had taught his wife and his children for the past 10 years that he would say he would be available. And then, somewhere around the day when he would look at the clock and get anxious, he would toddle off and do some work and go back and check on the business. So they all learned to actually create a life without him on Saturdays. And now that he wanted to have a life with them in it, they needed some time to adjust. They needed to see that he was serious and that he was actually available. So even if they didn't want to do something with him, he was supposed to stay home. And that was really hard for him because he would be thinking, I have free time now, nobody needs me, I'll go to the job, which would just reinforce their idea. He says he's available, but he's still going to the business. So people you love will still need some time to adjust to the fact that you're really available, you're really going to make it, you're actually now reliable in your private life. And that means that they will not always have open arms in the times that you now suddenly have available. And you need to deal with adjusting to these kind of balancing problems. But if you do and you hold on to a healthier balance, you will notice great benefits in your personal life. So I hope this gave you some good ideas on what to do when you want to balance your work life.